is going on, everybody? GeoFlux Type Perspectives here, and in today's video I was just having a really good conversation with somebody that I care about, and the way they were expressing it, I just had to admire it, because it's low-key how I be sounding, and I sound that way because of how I grew up and how, what I experienced and how I was raised. And at the same time, I want to make sure that I talk about the nuances in the conversation, because there's so many angles to look at it. But I agree pretty much 99.5%. No, I agree with it a lot, with what they were saying, what he was saying, because it's how I sound a lot of times. It's how I feel a lot of times. It's also how I was raised, and yet at the same time, I recognize the fallacies and the issues and the problematic notions behind it as well. So what he was talking about, which I pretty much agree with, is when, people make a lot of excuses, okay? Let's just be real. People make a lot of excuses for why they're not where they want to be at in life, why they don't have what they want in life, why they can't do something. And they will list everything in the world that's happening to them, that's going on. And while all of these excuses can legitimately be legitimate excuses, can be legitimate reasons behind why a person can't do something, or it's taking them a longer time to achieve something, or it's like dead-ass structural systematic barriers that keeps people from being able to move the way they want or need or should be able to move, right? That's what I mean by the nuances. And yet, regardless, this is where I say I agree for the most part, and yet regardless of what structural issues, systematic issues, obstacles, whatever it is what it is type thing, because very, very seldom do we as individuals actually have freedom of choice or freedom to make differences or drastic differences and changes that would make our lives a lot easier as an individual. In my opinion, very seldomly do we have that. So while we can complain and talk about like the reasons behind and or excuses behind why we haven't done something or can't do something, we also have to acknowledge the fact that a lot of times the other issue is people are lazy. People pick and choose what's important, what's a priority, and what isn't important, and what isn't a priority. Okay? You'll hear people talk about, well, I didn't have a dad growing up, so this is why A, B, and C. And while this is very true, a lot of us lacking positive, healthy male role models, lacking positive, healthy, consistent, actively involved dads, has definitely drastically impacted our lives in a negative way in many cases. And there's some positives too. There's some neutrals as well, right? While all that is true, it is what it is, right? So what I mean by that is, a lot of us are 25 and up, 30 and up, 40 and up. You're too old to still be talking about, because I didn't have a dad, this is why I don't have A, B, and C. Because now it has nothing to do with your dad. You're a grown-ass person. It has everything to do with you. You're not where you want to be because of you. And at some point, you have to take accountability for that. You can't keep blaming what's going on in the world. And even though the nuance is, damn, if this wasn't going on, if I had a proper, healthy, loving, caring, consistent, active father, I could have done this, that, and the third. And yet we see people who have that and who still don't amount to shit. So it's like humans, you never know what you're gonna get with us. I'm just gonna be real. Granted, societal issues they play a major role. Let's just keep it real. You know what I'm saying? Then you'll see people, they haven't gotten a degree or certifications, or they never started the business, or they never, really went and invested into their art or craft. Like, you got a lot of people who I'm just gonna keep it real. You got a lot of people who claim to be rappers and singers and artists and performers, yet they do nothing to invest in their craft. But they always running that mouth about what they could be doing, what they should be doing, and or hating on the person that actually is putting in effort. Right? We see that a lot. Because, projection is real. Because when you see other people out here on the grind with the same circumstances that you have, or something similar to what you have. And let's be real, some of us have less issues. Some of us are more privileged. Let's be honest. Let's be real. Let's just be real. Remember that song? Okay, anyway. But, so that is true too, right? But my thing is, again, it is what it is. And people be feeling that guilt when they see other people out here grinding, and they're not doing nothing but running that mouth and coming up with every excuse in the book for why they can't do something. They feel guilty. That's where and now you low-key know you're bothered, because you could be doing the same thing if you wanted to. And or you could be collaborating with them so you can both get up off the ground, or both get to y'all goals and make them real and make them achievable. You know what I'm saying? And or you're jealous of that person because they are putting forth an effort. They're grinding to get to where they want to get to achieve the goals that they have, to get to the next stage in life. And let's be real, you got a lot of people that be hating, okay? Because they know that they themselves should and could be doing a hell of a lot more than what they're doing. And at the same time, nuances, I recognize that though we all in theory have the same 24 hours in a day, everybody's 24 hours isn't exactly the same. Everybody has different things going on in life that they have to use their time and energy differently. This is very true. Like, for example, I'm heading to a day 2 of our conference. I was blessed and privileged to have a job that offers a conference that we throw and that they pay for, and that they offer us free, hotel and stay, and we're learning and engaging and learning new skills and networking and meeting new people and building upon what we already knew. That is a blessing and a privilege, and I don't take that for granted. And at the same time, my mom is in the hospital. My mom has been chronically ill for years. She has multiple sclerosis, MS. It is aggressive. And then she has other GI, urological health issues. And neurological because of the MS, but there's other things going on, layered, right? She's in the hospital. She's been in the hospital for nearly a week, since last Wednesday. Today is Tuesday. And then even before that, I take care of my mom. I look after my granny. I do a lot of things outside of working a full-time job. I have a part-time job. I have contract work that I do. Okay, contractual work. I have side hustles. I'm working on business ventures. I am doing renovation and home repair work. It's a lot going on top of having a full-time job, so it makes it very difficult to focus just on the conference by itself, because I have so much else going on. So that's what I mean by, yeah, we all have the same 24 hours in theory, but we don't, right? Because I know people who can get up at 7 o'clock and be at work at 7:30, 8 o'clock, do their job, ain't got to be worried about nothing, Don't got to worry about trying to take care of anybody else outside of themselves. Nobody's sick in their life, so they're not worrying about somebody else's health and well-being. They don't have kids. You know what I'm saying? They can just get up and go. That's a privilege, but a lot of people don't look at it like that. So it's a lot easier for that person to achieve things because you know what? You don't have a lot of obstacles in your way. You don't have a lot of stress in your life. Okay? And I also recognize my ongoing privileges because once again, I grew up in a semi, and I'm saying semi because there was definitely dysfunction and chaos. But when I look at the greater, you know how you say, are you looking for the tree for the forest or the forest for the tree? When you look at the bigger picture, the grand scheme of everything, I had a semi-stable, middle class, upper middle class upbringing. And it has definitely made it easier for me to achieve the things that I have achieved and accomplish the goals that I have accomplished. I can acknowledge I'm privileged. I have privileges, right? It's one of the reasons why, I was 19 with 2 associate's degrees. I was 21 with a bachelor's and 2 associate's degrees. I was 24 with a master's, 2 associate's degrees, and a bachelor's degree, And yet, I worked my ass off still, despite having privileges, despite having an easier layout. I still worked my ass off, It wasn't some, I can just relax. No, right? I acknowledge. That's why when I'm talking about this, I agree with him a lot. And then growing up the way I grew up, I was raised by baby boomers. My grandparents were very... I'm not going to say, and that's just it. Living in my household, people would say it was strict, but then I know other people who had way stricter setups than I did, so I don't view it as strict. But being honest, I was raised in a very strict, stern, authoritative, within reason, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, upbringing. A lot of structure, a lot of no, you can't do that, you won't be doing that, you better be here by this, you won't be wearing that, you won't be listening to that, you won't be watching that. Very controlled, strict structure. I'm just going to be honest. My mom provided the lenience. And the funny thing is, my granny and papa were extremely lenient to me in comparison to how they raised their kids and then also how they raised me. So when you look at it from that standpoint, they were lenient. So when I look at a lot of things, that I look at it like people make excuses, and also society creates a lot of the systemic problems and difficulties and obstacles that a lot of us have to constantly face that we shouldn't have to face. Just being real. And at the same time, we also have to acknowledge people will claim they don't have time for stuff, but then they have time to do everything else that they want to do. But they won't make time for the things that they need to do. And I think that's where a lot of people fail. Because yes, life sucks. Privilege is real. Marginalization and discrimination and struggles and systemic oppression is real. And things just happen. Some things are bad, some things are good. And yet, we still have to live type energy. That's why I kept saying it is what it is. And I'm not saying that to say it shouldn't matter or that you don't have the right to be upset or sad or depressed. I'm not saying the police think they are so slick. Here it is. I drive like an old person anyways. But, and let me stop saying that, because some old people, as we see, be driving recklessly. I drive to arrive, so I drive safely. I follow the speed limit for the most part. So I don't, it just cracks me up when you're able to see the speed traps. Like, and then in my past life, I have experience. Anyways, so it's just, I see, and I'm like, okay, really? They really be hiding out, trying to be conspicuous, and then just come out of nowhere. You're pulled over. But anyways, as usual, I'll always be sidetracked. ADHD vibes. But the other aspect of this is, yeah, you have to get up and make things happen regardless of what's happening a lot of times. That's how it is living in a capitalist society. I'll get to part 2 because it's 16 minutes, but I'll get to part 2 in the next video. And shout out to my friend. I'm proud of you because you've been making sacrifices. You've been making things happen for yourself. You've been reaching your goals and accomplishing things that you said that you wanted to do, despite all of the trials, tribulations, hardships, systemic oppression, abuse, dysfunction, toxicity, struggles. You've prevailed. I am very proud of you.